Podcast Today is brought to you by Anchor. It is the easiest place to make a podcast, giving you everything you need in one place you can use from your phone or your computer. It has creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast and make it sound great. They'll also distribute your podcast for you. It can be heard in places like Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, and many more. You can easily make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. So download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
What's up, everybody? This is Brad with the Mature Minded Gamers. We are a group of adult gamers who have jobs and lives, but also several passions like board gaming, Star Trek, and much more. You can check out our website, maturemindedgamers.com, where you'll find links to our YouTube channel, Twitch streams, and all of our podcasts. Today, we're bringing you another episode of our Star Trek podcast where we cover all things Trek. What's up, everybody? This is Brad with the Mature Minded Gamers, and I'm here with our bridge crew, Will and Eric.
Hey.
Hello.
And we're going to cover 3 more episodes of Season 4 of The Next Generation, starting with Episode 19, The Nth Degree. Fellas, what do you guys remember of this episode?
Barclay being a badass, that's what I remember.
Absolutely. I've always kind of liked Barkley, and I love how he almost had like a redeeming episode here.
Yeah. Yep. Today's a crowd favorite episode with Barkley. This one I think is probably one of my favorite Barkley episodes because of the amount of time and screen time he gets in this one. So, yeah, I'll just jump right in. So we find that the crew, along with Barkley, is at the edge of the known space, at the edge of deep space, investigating a deep space long-range subspace telescope called the Argus Array that has shut down or stopped communicating. When they get there, they find this odd-looking probe that seems to be impenetrable to most scans, so they sent out a Geordi LaForge and Reginald Barkley on a shuttlecraft to inspect it. And while they're inspecting it, the probe sends out a flash of light, knocks Barkley out, and knocks the computer systems out on the shuttlecraft. So the Enterprise scoops it back up and turns tail to run. The probe is in hot pursuit, even up to warp 2. And it's at that moment that Barkley sort of wakes up from his little zap and soups up a torpedo and maximizes the shields up to 300% of their total previous energy. So it's kind of evident that something happened to Barkley. Dang it, Barkley. Will, you got in my head with that broccoli crap.
It wasn't a coincidence.
And so you don't mean Will, you mean Crusher.
Yeah, well, okay, Wesley Crusher, which I guess is what Will told us to call him last episode too. So anyway, we find that Reg has some implied intelligence that he didn't have before. So he's souped up the shields, he souped up a torpedo, they've destroyed the probe, and Geordi has kind of noticing something's wrong, has a little dialogue with Reg stating that that, you know, it's something's got to be the matter, and Barkley says, "Can a guy just be more confident?" And Geordi LaForge is kind of like, "No, we need to check this out." So they go to sickbay, find out that his neural synapses or some other medical mumbo jumbo is firing at 1,000% or whatever it was. I don't remember. Anyway, some medical speak for why this is all happening, but Barkley is getting smarter by the second. So with the probe gone and the ship sort of out of danger, they kind of turn their attentions back to the Argus Array, and Barkley comes up with a way to repair the whole array in one shot, taking about half the amount of time that it would have normally been. And they start along that repair. But as they're doing it, Barkley keeps getting distracted by other things, like solving some equations with a holodeck Einstein, and just kind of isn't totally focused on this, but is a lot more cocky, even going so far as trying to hit on Deanna Troi. Guys, what did you think about that?
I mean, he already showed that he was affectionate for her, and I mean, it's Deanna. Who wouldn't hit on her?
This guy.
You wouldn't hit on her?
Absolutely not.
I don't know. I mean, we know Will apparently doesn't like gorgeous women, so whatever.
Yeah. So
She's not Worf.
Say what?
Hey,
she's not Worf, you know.
I'm not gonna lie, Worf's a sexy man, so it's fine.
Okay, well, this whole dialogue's gone a different direction than I expected. I stopped here mainly because probably one of the funniest parts of the episode, in my opinion, happens right here when they're walking out of the ready room, and Riker leans over to Deanna and says something like, you mentioned he hit on you, but you didn't mention if he was successful. And she just gets this goofy grin and just walks away from him. And Riker sort of gives a hey, wait a second kind of look. So anyway, that was just, a little humor there that I think is missing from some episodes here recently. But in any case,
we all know that most women find confidence sexy anyway.
Right. And was that before or after he nailed the Shakespeare?
That was after.
Well, I mean, bam. I mean, if you didn't know at that point, then you're missing some subtle clues.
Yeah. Yeah, he nailed it with that Shakespeare, and Crusher was brought to tears at that point. But she even comments later that he was teaching a violin class, and prior to that night, he didn't know anything about violin. So, yeah, it's getting pretty obvious that he's got some expanded mental capacity now. So it's about at this point in the episode that one of the fusion reactors on the Argus array starts to go critical, and Barclay springs into action. So he starts punching away at the control panels, trying to solve the problem. But lo and behold, the computer system on the Enterprise is too slow for Barclay to work this out. So he runs to the holodeck and on the fly invents this like neural interface sort of thing that will allow him to essentially embed himself into the computer system of the Enterprise to solve the problem, solve problems faster than they come up. So it's in this moment that he solves all the problems of the Argus array, but the Enterprise crew learns that he has embedded himself so far into the computer system that it would be detrimental to his health if they were to disconnect him from it. And that's kind of troubling to everybody. So Barclay kind of insists that this is just the way life is going to be. And it's in that moment that he creates something called like a temporal inversion or something like that, or a subspace inversion. That's what it was. And shoots the Enterprise hundreds of thousands of light years to the center of the Milky Way galaxy. And here they meet a kind of a floating head on the bridge. I don't really know how to describe that really, other than an advanced creature with almost like a third eye in the center of their head. But we find that this is a race called the Cytherians, and this is kind of their way of first contact. They send out these probes who interact with computer systems of aliens to sort of soup up their system so they can bring them to the Cytherian system to exchange knowledge. So kind of the opposite of what the Enterprise does, where the Enterprise goes out and searches and seeks out new life. The Cytherians bring people to them to experience new life. Reg sort of stumbles onto the bridge because the Cytherians have sort of re-engineered him, and he tells them that the Cytherians found it easier to reprogram Reginald Barclay than they did the computer systems of the Enterprise or the shuttlecraft of the Argus array.
Cut out real bad right there. You might want to redo that whole sentence.
How far back?
Last thing I heard was when Barclay stumbled onto the bridge.
Oh, okay, cool. I don't remember how I started that sentence. It doesn't matter. So about at this point, Barclay stumbles onto the bridge with some new knowledge of what happened. The Cytherians disconnected him from the computer system and kind of give him the skinny of what's going on. They see, I don't remember if I gave the description. It doesn't matter. I'll just edit it all out. So after Barclay ends up back on the bridge, he tells everybody that the Cytherians had found it easier to reprogram his mind than they found to reprogram either the Argus Array or the Enterprise computers. So that way he could bring the Enterprise crew to the Cytherians. And so at this point, everything kind of seems copacetic. The Enterprise spends 10 days there discussing things with Cytherians, and they return Reginald back to his original small self, as he would describe. So, guys, what did you think of this episode?
It's definitely one of my favorite Barclay episodes from The Next Generation. I'm glad that they let him be comedic with it, very comical, and I liked how they ended it too, because we didn't get left with any questions. I mean, typical Star Trek questions, but they answered most of it and wrapped it all up, and I just thought it was a really good episode. It was fun.
Will, what'd you think?
I thought that Dwight Schultz does a pretty good job of playing Barclay. I mean, I always remember watching him from the A-Team when I was a kid, and and as I got older, started watching Star Trek, and oh man, you've got Murdoch in Star Trek now, and I was always excited when I saw him. But I think he does a really good job playing both sides of the coin here, where he's got the anxious and the nervousness and the idiosyncrasies that he has, the different fears like the transported and whatnot. And, then he goes into this uber confident, incredibly smart character. And I think, he does a really good job of portraying both sides. And I think he's just a really, really solid actor. I think he's just a good addition. And I couldn't imagine anyone else playing this role. I just absolutely love this episode. My couple concerns or questions that I kind of got for you guys, and tell me what you guys think on this one. As far as I wonder why Geordi didn't get affected, and why it was Barclay that got affected from the probe.
I think it just chose one target. I mean, that's like Brett said, that's how that species communicates. So I think it probably, sort of locking onto multiple people, it only needed one person to do it.
Sure. I didn't know if there was like something that, something that was more specific to like the visor or something that you guys are aware of.
Nah, I don't know that it was really a technical thing. I just think that the probe probably assessed in the moment what would be the easiest thing to reprogram, and for some reason Reg turned out to be the target.
I mean, it would have been nice seeing Geordi actually get a woman, but
Yeah, it would have been kind of the moment for him to learn how to game a bit, I guess.
I don't know, like I was saying, I like it. I'd watch this one over and over. And yeah, what'd you think of it, Brad, overall?
All right, so I don't want to belabor the point that we all love Reg Barclay and we love all the episodes he's in. I just think that this is a fun episode. Like from start to finish, it's a pretty fun episode. We find that they're putting on a Shakespearean play in 10 forward. So we know that the crew's got a life outside of their normal Starfleet duties. We find that Beverly Crusher is, big into being a playwright, and she's sort of directing this whole thing. That Barclay is kind of stepping up to be a part of this. That, there's some of that romantic tension between Deanna Troi and Commander Riker, and that Reg digs Deanna, and that, you know what I mean? There's just all these little pieces that kind of come together throughout this episode that that tell a lot of background story. I think, especially having watched this, maybe this has got to be like my umpteenth time going through the season. So I'm seeing all these little things that just are kind of trigger points or kind of connection points for later on pieces of the story. But yeah, I don't know, just like pieces like that, or watching Reg kind of do his thing and be confident and to do some really technical, nonsense. It just is sort of fun to see all that happen. And I like seeing Patrick Stewart respond to everything as Picard. The way he handles a lot of it is pretty smooth. I don't know. I just I don't know how better to describe it. It's just, this whole episode is just fun to me, and it's a memorable one too, because even the way that being kind of pops into the middle of the bridge, sort of unassuming and not endangering at all, and the crew just kind of rolls with it too. That's another thing that sort of, I think, shocks me about this, is that nobody went full on red alert or shields up or anything. They just kind of let it happen, and I think that was a little different than I think the crew would have normally reacted to that. So I don't know, just lots of things that make me enjoy this episode.
So go ahead, sorry.
You know what this episode needed? Worf tackling that guy and getting his ass beat. It's been a few episodes.
Barkley whipping him.
You mean Worf jumping through this invisible head and like face planting onto the view screen?
That's exactly what we needed.
That's what you wanted. I gotcha.
So I was looking at some information about this episode prior to this podcast, and something that I picked up is that the script for this was not originally written for Lieutenant Barkley. So the producers were looking for a way to bring back his character. Who do you guys, I guess, more think that the script was originally intended for?
Data.
To make Data more, smarter and more confident?
More, no, to make him more human-like, and for him to interact, to play a lot of the things that Reg did, but as Data instead.
I could see that.
I think we already called it. I think Geordi would have been the second choice. Right. He's the least confident in the whole crew, in my opinion. But then they remembered.
Yeah.
They had old Regil.
Right. Yeah, honestly I can see both of those as viable options. I think it was just perfect for his character in this one.
So I thought you were leading in to tell us who actually the script was written for, though.
Oh, I have no idea. All I know is that the script was not originally written for Lieutenant Barkley.
Oh, really? That's all they gave you? Okay.
Yeah. So
we'd tease it out there, Will. I like it.
Yeah,
I know.
If anybody actually knows, it'd be a great thing. Why don't you leave comments and let us know.
All right. Anything else on this episode before we move on?
The pre-credit scene is one of the longest in Star Trek: The Next Generation. It is 7 minutes long.
Jeez. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
Facts no one cares about. Thank you, Will. Move on.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. So, okay. Anyway, moving on. All right. We have episode 20, QPid. And in this episode, we start right off with an old flame that gets rekindled with Picard as he finds Vash sort of squirreled her way into his quarters and surprises him. And it's not too long before they find themselves smooching. And we get a very convenient cut to credits right there. And after the credits, they wake up to breakfast. So I don't know. I don't know what they were trying to insinuate there, but I'm thinking maybe she might have slept over. Thoughts?
I mean, I didn't pick that up.
No,
we'll give you that idea.
I don't know. Just smooching, fade to black, breakfast next morning just seems like a very Picard thing to do. I mean, it was very.
He just did the Picard maneuver.
No.
In and out.
No.
Two places at once.
Two places at the same time.
Well, if anything were to make that more awkward, we find that Beverly Crusher has then come to breakfast the next morning and finds Vash there. And after the two of them kind of
Wait. I'm pretty sure we just said two places at the same time.
No. Because there's nothing happens between Picard and Beverly yet. So, anyhow, but at this moment, though, it's not Beverly who's mad. It's Vash, because Vash is realizing that Picard hasn't told anybody about her. Like, she's more upset that Beverly has no idea who she is and no idea when Picard had met up with her or anything about his trip to Ryza in an earlier season. So Vash is pretty upset at this moment. But anyway, we find that the whole Enterprise is here at Tegus 3 for an archaeologist council meeting or something like that. And Vash is there because, well, she finds herself to be a bit of an archaeologist as well. Legal or not legal, I don't know. It's all kind of gray area for her. Anyway, Beverly offers to take Vash on a tour of the ship, and the next scene we find two of them in 10 forward. Beverly offers to get Vash a drink. Vash says sure, and when Beverly steps away, Riker steps in, sets phasers to swoon, and attempts to lay down a line like, I gotta find it here. Eternity never looked so lovely. Vash, her romantic shields are set to maximum, completely deflects that shot, and immediately pegs this guy for Commander Riker based only on the impressions that Captain Picard had done of him. So I'm gonna stop right here a second because I think there's a lot more we can probably digest from this. Guys, do you think that Captain Picard does impressions of his entire crew when the camera's not on him?
Sets his phasers to swoon. Man, I mean, my pain is dropping over here, Brad. I think if you remember from the first episode where they met, he references Riker, actually. Remember, because he tries to drop that line on her or something like that, and he says, "Well, you know, this is how they told me people act at where were they again? Where were that pleasure?
Ryza,
yeah." So I think maybe they're kind of alluding a little bit to that, and then obviously, yes, I think you're right. I think we're hearing that, you know, Picard is a talk behind your back person. He's fed up. He's got this one woman he loves and sleeps with. She probably knows everything, man. She probably knows the self-destruct codes for the Enterprise.
Well, what do you think?
That's Picard pillow talk.
Exactly.
Interesting.
I don't know, man. I don't know why. I don't know if he is the kind of person of what we know about Captain Picard that would make fun of anyone, to be honest with you.
I wouldn't necessarily say that it's making fun, really, just kind of a, you know, sort of an endearing way, like trying to, like that. Maybe that's the only way he knows how to describe Riker to somebody else is through impression.
I could see it as a possibility, but
Now that
it'd be stretching it.
That being said, who is the one person that you would like to hear Patrick Stewart do an impression of?
Greased up deaf guy from Family Guy?
No, I meant in the, like, of his crew.
Oh, you mean it from Star Trek?
Yeah.
Anybody?
Well, yeah. I mean, if he's doing impressions of Riker, he's bound to have done them of other people too, just none of them on screen. I'm just curious who you guys would want to hear.
Crusher.
That would be interesting.
Wesley Crusher.
Wesley Crusher. Shut up, Wesley. Okay. I think personally, I would like to see Captain Picard do a Worf. That's just me. Well, so we haven't even really hit the meat and potatoes of this episode yet. So it's later on. Oh, go ahead.
Why Worf?
Why Worf?
You want to see Captain Picard fall on the ground and get injured?
Yeah, basically, I want to see if that's the impression that Picard does of Worf, that he constantly is like trying to fight and gets his butt whooped.
I want you to make a clip to play in the YouTube video of this, of every time Worf gets his ass handed to him up until this point.
Oh, I've already got a clip on my phone that I'm going to put right here, which is of Worf walking up to LaForge, grabbing his little mandolin looking thing, smashing it on the tree and saying sorry. I literally took that clip on my phone because I forgot how funny that was. Anyway, so it's a little bit later in this episode that Picard is at the reception in 10 Forward there with the archaeologist council, and that kind of is less than energetic. So Picard kind of sneaks away, ends up back at his ready room, and there is Q sitting in his chair. And Q turns on his game a little bit, and does his Capitan and all this stuff, and tells Picard that he's there to show his gratitude for the events that unfolded in the episode Deja Q earlier in this season, right? Or was that last season? I can't remember. It's been so long. It was last season. Well, anyway, so he's there to pay him back for everything that happened there in Deja Q. That if Q would have been kicked out of the continuum, that he would have, it would have been lots of bad things would have happened. So he's appreciative. So Picard tries to shrug him off, and it's in that moment that it seems to work. Seems like Q is sort of reserved to get away and not do anything for Picard, but Picard later shows up to perform the keynote speech at this gathering of archaeologists, when little bits at a time people's clothing starts changing to be something like a hat or a staff, or Data lifts his arm and it's a turkey leg and things like this, and the entire bridge crew basically is whisked away and is set onto the fantasy Robin Hood. And we find that Captain Picard is set as Robin Hood. Riker is set as Little John. Data as Friar Tuck. And LaForge and Worf are the Merry Men. So it's at this point right now that we find that Worf is not happy with this, and he declares, "I am not a merry man." That I'm going to put a quote in, or a clip in for. And Q has cast himself as the Sheriff of Nottingham and Vash as the Maid Marian. Q also tells everybody that if they don't save the Maid Marian, that she is going to be beheaded the next day. The next scene, we flip over to Vash, who's dealing with her handmaiden, and she has no clue what's going on, has no clue that she is in sort of this game that Q's put out there, and sort of talks back to the king, and he declares that she's going to be beheaded. She tries to turn, kind of fast talk her way out of that. It doesn't work. I forget kind of what happens right here. Eric, can you help fill this in? What happens at this point right here? I completely lost my train of thought in there, so I was hoping you could save me.
So I can't go into great details, but this is a fantastic episode. I love the Robin Hood theme, and I'm not sure where you were. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Because I wasn't even paying attention to any of my notes whatsoever. I was sort of riffing from my mind. That's okay. I'll cut that out too. Where am I at? Well, I'll just cut it out from where I say that she's going to get beheaded. Okay, take two. Picard and his merry men come up with a way to save Vash, and their plan unfolds. and they save Vash. Basically, a whole lot happens in a long amount of time. It's difficult to describe right here. So if you want to see Captain Picard as Robin Hood, watch this episode. In any case, the plan unfolds. They save Vash, and Vash agrees to go off and explore the galaxy with Q. And Q assures Picard that no harm will come of Vash because we know that Picard has feelings for her. So Picard seems to be happy with this agreement and absolves Q of any debt he may feel like he has. So, guys, now that we've reached the end of this episode, tell me what your thoughts are.
Did you guys watch Robin Hood Men in Tights?
Oh, heck yeah.
I freaking love that movie. And I did not get to watch this episode when it was live, but I did get to watch it later on. And it just made it even better. I love seeing the bridge crew as all the Robin Hood characters, even though they weren't as silly, they definitely had some funny moments, like you referenced earlier, Worf's moment of "I'm not a married man." They really nailed it. Q episodes are always fun, and this one definitely kept the bar high. It was nice seeing Vosh again, bringing her in, and then we actually get to see her in Deep Space Nine for 1 or 2 episodes, don't we?
Yep, 1 episode.
So she's gonna, this is her second or third episode now at this point, right?
Second in Next Generation.
Second, okay. And so she's kind of becoming a little fling with Picard, and I like that. I like that Q kind of stepped in, and like I said, it's just a really fun episode. I enjoyed it a lot. You could tell the cast seemed to have a good time with this one. At least I would hope. I mean, it seemed like everybody was having a good time. Brad, Will, what did you think of this one?
Not a big fan. I don't like episodes where we're going back to the past and whatever. I want to see space. I want to see laser beams. I want to see starships and aliens. I don't want to see plays. I don't know. I know it's a fun romp. I'm not a fan of these kind of episodes.
Now, I'm going to agree with you there. I mean, so there were parts of this that I laughed out loud at, and I do think that I like this episode overall, but it's not one that I'm going to see after. Like, it's, I think it was probably pretty evident in my recap of the episode that I just sort of fell off the episode once we got it into the Robin Hood portion. Like, it just, I don't know, takes a nosedive for me, and I don't understand why. I'm going to try to be careful with my words. It was another fun episode, but I don't understand why they went this route with this episode right now. And it may have just been a vehicle for connecting Vash to Q, maybe. I don't know. Because the episode with Vash and Q in Deep Space Nine is actually a pretty important episode in Deep Space Nine. So that may have been an afterthought. I have no idea. But yeah, this episode seems a little out of place, I guess, to me.
Well, yeah, I don't understand. Like, why a Robin Hood? Like, in what realm does Robin Hood even come into play for this? It's just kind of like out of left field, and it just wasn't enjoyable for me.
That's a Q episode for you, though.
Yeah, well, but this is the second time that Q's done something like this. Like in season 1, that he ended up doing the whole, and I think we talked about it back then too. Like he did like he went through several different scenarios where they were on a soundstage, obviously, and it just wasn't. I don't know. It wasn't cool then. And I don't know. This one's a little more developed. I'm not going to say I didn't enjoy it at all. I just think it's out of place. That's all for me.
So
I get that. You guys can both be wrong. This is a good episode.
Yeah, we could have gone a different direction and
you
had
want
the same idea. Why Robin Hood though?
Why not Robin Hood? What would you have rather seen?
Space and laser beams.
That's what we've been seeing. That's what Star Trek is.
Exactly. So what is this? This isn't Star Trek.
We're on the 4th season, episode 90-ish, 95, something like that.
Simpsons did it.
Did they really?
What?
I didn't watch The Simpsons.
It's a South Park gag.
Well,
Simpsons.
I don't watch South Park either, so. Well, so I think we're all in agreement. This isn't our favorite episode.
So here's actually what I'm reading on why they went the route of Robin Hood for this episode. They were considering doing a Camelot themed story, but I guess the Robin Hood Prince of Thieves was going to be coming out soon, and so they wanted to capitalize on the buzz for the pending release of Robin Hood Prince of Thieves.
Seems like a real TV move.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they would have been able to rush this to TV a lot quicker than the movie would have been produced. So,
well, because
I guess I understand that.
Release.
All right,
let's go. A little bit of trivia. You ready?
Okay.
That Marina Sirtis and Gates McFadden were the only members of the cast that were actually trained in sword fighting. But in the episode, only the men were allowed to use swords.
Oh, this is the one where Riker busts his forehead, isn't it?
Where he actually gets injured?
Yeah. I think he talked about that. He had to get stitches and stuff. All right, let's stop beating this drumhead and move on.
So I see what you did there. So now we're at episode 21, the drumhead. So I'm going to jump right off at the beginning here and say this is another one of my not really great episodes, and I had to struggle to keep along on this one. So, I'm going to try to keep my recap little high notes. Eric, if you want to jump in at any point in time and add some flair to what I'm going to say, that'd be great. So, we have an old-fashioned witch hunt on this episode, starting off with the Klingon Jadon, who is an exobiologist that's been stationed on the Enterprise for, I think they say, several weeks. On an exchange program, and it sounds like he's been exchanging secrets with the Romulans about the dilithium crystals or the dilithium matrix on the ship. In any case, that's not important. All that's important is that he was exchanging secrets, or he was passing along secrets like a spy would have been. And it's kind of around this time that a maintenance hatch fails. It looks like it's a sabotage, and Jadon appears to be suspect. So Starfleet brings on a retired admiral, Satie, from the I think Picard says the legal division of Starfleet, which is kind of like the JAG of Starfleet. Anyway, she comes on to investigate and get to the bottom of the issues. She basically springs right into action as soon as she beams onto the Enterprise, inspecting the damage and starting to collect stories. And it isn't long before she turns her sights on a medical technician that I think might have been Beta Z. I don't remember what species. No, half Vulcan. It doesn't matter. Anyway, this no name.
Romulan.
No, it was a Romulan.
He put down on his application that he was half Vulcan, and he lied. He was really half Romulan, and that's part of the reason why she suspects him.
Okay. So anyway, she turns her sights to this guy and sort of points at him as being a collaborator and a sympathizer, and that he's in cahoots with Jadon. Both of them are kind of like, we have no idea what you're talking about. And like you mentioned, she tries to attack his very existence in Starfleet, that he shouldn't even be in Starfleet, and attacks his character and whatnot. And come to find out that the maintenance hatch, after investigation, had just blown because of fatigue, not out of any sort of sabotage. So it's at this point the Satie doesn't feel like she's satisfied with what's going on and starts picking out other things that's negative on the crew. She calls to question Worf and his involvement and his father, and then she kind of turns her sights towards Picard and starts listing out his transgressions and the number of times he broke the Prime Directive, the numerous times that he has disobeyed orders from Starfleet, and then even begins to call to question, after his encounter with the Borg, the number of lives that were lost while he was Locutus, and starts to condemn him as a traitor. And I've kind of leaned over a lot in this episode. I'm kind of landing the plane on this, but after she starts to do that, Picard, in a very sort of calm and collected Captain Picard way, starts to cite off some legal precedents, and she immediately recognizes it as being from her father, and she sort of gets emotional and continues to spout off, so much so that she basically offends everybody in the room, including a Starfleet admiral that up until this point had kind of been on her side and had kind of been one of her political allies at this point. But he, at that point, kind of puts a stop to the whole thing, absolves everybody of any wrongdoing except for probably Jadon, and apologizes to Picard, and the episode kind of comes to a halt. So that's really the episode in a nutshell. Eric, did I miss anything of flair that you might want to throw out there?
I think this is all just a matter of perspective. No, I think you nailed it. Matter of perspective was the episode where Riker supposedly sexually assaulted and then killed that scientist.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And
I get the reference now.
And I feel like this episode was very much leaning in that way, the old Salem witch hunt type of thing going on here. And my favorite part of this whole episode is actually when Worf is helping her, and later on he mentions that he regrets ever helping her because he realized what was going on. And it kind of showed how easy it is to get caught up in things. And I think in our society right now, we're seeing a bunch of that, obviously, with all this fake news and everything else going on. And it's real,
Mr. Worf. That is the price we must continually pay.
And
that's what we're an actual direct quote from this episode. Good one, Will.
So I think this episode probably has a lot. I think a lot of people need to watch this episode right now. I mean, we got the coronavirus going around, all this fake news. This is a great episode for people to watch and maybe hopefully pull some meaning from it.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about the connection to our current climate of things, but yeah, you're definitely right that in a season of fake news and not really knowing who to believe, and everybody kind of being at each other's throats with stuff, I guess episodes like this do kind of hold a little different weight. Well, what'd you think of this whole episode?
You know what? I didn't mind it. I like when we see the inner workings and the conspiracies in Inner Starfleet, and I enjoyed the sabotage. I like the medical syringe when you're looking at them trying to steal information. Yeah, I thought that was really cool. I like how, like I said, I like how we see the inner workings of whether right or wrong, that someone's really looking out to make sure that, shit's going right. You know what I mean?
I think so.
So I liked it. It was a fun watch. I'd watch this one again. And I agree with both of what you're saying with the current climate. I guess it can kind of be seen in any political environment. People are always going to be skewing the truth to their own perception.
Sure. Well, so go ahead.
You have her so sure of herself and accusing everybody, and then, like you had mentioned, when Picard references her father's quote, and she gets mad because she realizes how wrong she was, and she just angrily accuses everybody. This is what I pulled from that. I just thought it was a really strong ending. Kind of made the episode really stand out to me.
So you would say that this is not a skip. This is an episode you would watch.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree. When it comes to Star Trek, this is the political side of the Federation. Whether it be right or wrong, I like that.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be honest. This is a probably a skip for me. If I'm doing a grind through the series, I'm probably going to pass this one up.
Is it because this one isn't as fun?
No,
Serious tone.
no, because I like the serious episodes. I mean, I really do like the fun episodes that we've had through here, but there are several of the serious episodes that I like as well. I think the reason I skipped this one is that it just, to me, didn't have a connecting point to the rest of the series. And I know that we've had this discussion before, that this is an episodic series. And I am more of a story arc kind of guy, long story arc kind of guy. So maybe that's why, and maybe I just don't see that this adds any additional value to any of the characters in the show. And I don't like these these witch honey type episodes. I don't know, for some reason, even when we talked about the other one with Riker, I didn't like that one either. And I know we're going to hit another one in the future, but I don't know how far into the future that's going to be similar like this. There's going to be a tribunal, and somebody's going to be accused of something, and somebody ends up getting off. And episodes like that are a skip for me.
You found like they're just a waste of time. Don't advance.
Yeah, they're just a waste of time. They're just a waste of time.
So interestingly enough, though, this is the only time in the run of the series that the inner isolation door in the main engineering is seen. Normally, the outer door is seen after a warp core breach.
Wow.
Useless fact number 2 of this episode. Well done, Will.
I know, dude. Yeah, that's high five.
I like it.
Yay!
Hey,
you know what? Somebody's listening to these just for those trivia facts.
Apparently, the Hollywood Reporter in 2016 rated this as the 15th best episode of Star Trek Next Generation.
Shenanigans.
15th? I don't know if I go that far.
Actor Michael Dorn has stated this was his favorite episode of the entire series.
It's just because he didn't get his ass handed to him.
He didn't have to fight.
And in particular, he liked the Orphan Picard scene at the end of the episode.
Of course he did.
Oh, in 2020, Games Radar recommended watching this episode prior to viewing Star Trek Picard. Why would that be?
Because you see the whole Borg part come in. I think this is the first time they've referenced this since it happened, isn't it? As being, you were a traitor, and
there are many episodes that were referenced in this too.
Yeah, being episode 21, I mean, it does kind of feel sort of season wrap up. You know what I mean? Like maybe that was the intent. We've seen that in at least 2 of the other seasons where they've had sort of an end of the season wrap up.
Yeah, that's true.
I guess.
Wonder if that was on the table at all.
Yeah, I wonder.
All right, everybody. Thanks for checking out our Star Trek podcast. Don't forget to check out all the rest of our content on our website, maturemindedgamers.com. We do board games, video games, and much more. Have yourself a great night.